Yeah, so 4 years ago, my daughter turned 2, and I had absolutely no idea how I was going to communicate to her what her future looked like and the trajectory that we're on around climate change and lots of other ecological dilemmas we're facing. And so I spent the next 4 years travelling around the world trying to find the best solutions that existed to many of these problems, and then I put them in the form of a visual letter to her called 2040. It's a documentary film that shows her what the world would look like in 2040 if we put those solutions into practice today. And one of the most important people I met along my journey was an environmental psychologist named Renee Lertzman. And she said that when we constantly only hear about the dread and the fear and the anxiety, when we're bombarded with that, which we are in the media right now, it activates a part of our brain called the limbic system. And when that's activated, it actually shuts down the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is where we problem solve and we think creatively. So it is causing widespread paralysis in a lot of people. They're angry, they want to take action, but they just don't know what to do. There's nowhere to channel that energy. So the film opened in Australia about 3 months ago, and it's already one of the highest grossing documentaries of all time in my country, and we're about to release it through Europe and in America early next year. I'll show you a 2-minute trailer and then talk a bit more about the film. Yeah.
My name is Damon, and this is my daughter, Velvet. Her major concern right now is the elusive art of sleep direction. But soon, she'll have to face a rapidly deteriorating environment.
The ice sheet is now melting faster than the scientists predicted.
I think there's room for a different story, a story that focuses on the solutions to some of these problems. So in 2040, what will the world look like for our daughter if we just embrace the best that already exists?
Instead of having governments that are reacting to disaster, we need governments and businesses that actually take us off in a different direction.
Maybe it's farming, or it can be energy, it can be housing, or empowering girls.
I'd like to see deforestation being stopped.
Oh, that would be so cool. That'd be awesome.
Just be respectful to Earth.
Imagine Velvet. We adopted regenerative practices like phrases, pulling the carbon into the soil and making it healthier.
That's right, yeah.
And we embrace efficient local energy.
Bangladesh has 5 million solar home systems. They have that power in their own hands. This is bringing people together.
But here I am sitting on an aeroplane that is spewing out carbon. You can't help but be a hypocrite because our entire system is built on fossil fuels.
What were you guys thinking?
Well, sometimes we weren't.
The power of innovation, imagination, creativity to sit within all people.
People want to be working on something that they can see is actually helping to regenerate the world.
Everywhere you look, you will see incredible reasons for hope.
You could feed 10 billion people with the protein from marine permaculture alone.
Wow. Not only are there so many people who want to take part in telling a new story, we have everything we need right now to make it happen. What's your 2040?
I just want the future to be good.
So some of the really the most important solutions we discovered were a decentralised energy network in Bangladesh, where anyone that has solar panels and a battery is given a special box that allows them to connect to other houses with the same setup. And they're able to form a microgrid amongst their own village, but importantly, they buy and sell energy from each other. So all the money gets to stay in the community, it doesn't go off to a large corporation elsewhere, and they're much more resilient if their main grid shuts down. We looked at regenerative agriculture, which takes carbon from the atmosphere and puts it back into the soil with incredible benefits, not only for water retention, which is really important moving forward, but also for the health of our food. And one of the best stats I learnt was that you'd have to eat 8 oranges today to get the same level of vitamin A that a single orange had 60 years ago because of the health of our soil. So putting carbon and organic matter in the soil is just a no-brainer. And also seaweed. Seaweed is the fastest growing organism in the planet. It can grow 0.5 metre a day and up to 50 metres long. So it just turbocharged sequesters that carbon from the atmosphere. And we went and visited scientists that are looking at building giant kelp forests out at sea, that create a habitat for fish to lay their eggs. The seaweed can be stored on the ocean floor as carbon, and also the seaweed can be used as plastics and biofuels and other solutions. And then the importance of empowering girls and women as a climate solution, which really isn't talked about often enough. And what's been really exciting about releasing the film in Australia is that we're able to set up an action campaign off the back of the film, which gave people the opportunity to get involved with the things they'd seen in the film. So we're just about to launch the first seaweed platform in Australia. There's a fund that's paying farmers to put carbon in the soil. We've planted nearly 10,000 trees. We've had 10,000 schools download our action program. Again, it just speaks to the willingness and readiness of people to get involved. They just don't know what to do. And finally, probably the most important thing I learnt was the importance of storytelling and the way we tell the stories about how we interact with the planet. And if you go pre-scientific revolution, every culture talked about the planet in a very different way. The Aboriginals in my country called themselves custodians of the land. The Native American Indians were Mother Earth and Father Sky. The Chinese called themselves reverent guests of the land. And then you get the scientific revolution and all our language starts to change. Bacon, Descartes talked about extracting, conquering nature, hounding her and penetrating her every corner. So the language and the metaphors for nature became very different. And unless we start correcting those and we don't see ourselves as just an extractive culture, I don't think we're going to turn things around. But I was so excited to see the action that's taking place all around the world, beyond the main stage, not waiting for our leaders, people just getting on with it. And my most favourite quote to sum that up is by Robert Swan, who's an Arctic explorer, and he said that the greatest threat to the planet is the belief that someone else will save it. Thank you.